Hello, I hope you had an excellent Thanksgiving. Today is kind of an unscripted, open, unplanned video. I wanted to do something to just express some thoughts, ideas, things that are happening right now, rather than go through the schedule of planned videos to upload. I found this dilemma recently where I look ahead and I have more than a year's worth of content to create and upload easily. But there are two things that are kind of working against me. One of them is time. You know, the commodity that we can't replace. People who are creators for YouTube, I admire them, especially if they're doing it on the side of a full-time gig, because it seems like it takes quite some time to do the proper preparation. And there's a lazy way I could do this where I have a lot of videos of like point of view driving with just some music. Of course, I can do things like that, or do comment videos, reaction videos. There are those as well. But to make things that take the time to bring something about that's thought-provoking and ignites your creative process, of course, isn't that simple. It can happen, no problem, but it does take some dedicated time and focus to execute that kind of planning and bring something that I hope can accomplish that for you. The other factor, have you heard the phrase, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around, does it make a sound? I know you're thinking, okay, physics. There's hearing and there's sound. Well, the physical falling of the tree makes a sound, so yeah, of course it makes a sound. But the real point is, if no one's around to hear it, doesn't matter. You know, no one's listening. Who cares if a tree falls in the forest? Trees fall in the forest all the time. Now the other factor, I mentioned there were two big factors, and one of them was time. The other one is, if nobody's really reacting to what I'm putting on the videos, it's not motivating me to try to make very well thought out creative videos, because I don't know what the viewers would like. And I can continue to upload things, and I probably will when time allows it. But you understand that there's a feedback loop. So if people are getting something valuable from the channel and they comment on it, then I know where their interests are at and what I can dive deeper into. The other part is, I'm not really advertising. You know, I might mention it on Facebook, or I might say something from one of the other videos, but I'm not like paying for advertising. I don't think I'm getting to the top of the search list or anything like this. I'm probably doing something very wrong. Not really focused on monetization, not against it, but of course that's not the driving factor of the channel at this point. Okay, so some open thinking for today. I barely got any sleep, and this is not a good thing. When you don't take care of yourself, when you don't sleep much, it affects some things. So if I have goals to lift weight, lose weight, fast, there's learn things, be creative, all of these things get impacted by poor sleep quality or like low sleep duration. And so I went to a training yesterday, and there was some pretty good stuff being shared about some early class developments, and I remember almost nothing. It was completely futile to go to a training that late where it wasn't just somebody reading from a PowerPoint. They were actively creating the presentation and looking for input. And at the time I was even giving some input and trying to be a part. But when you do things late at night like this, it's not as effective as you may think. One is you're not really getting a lot out of it like you would when your mind is the most agile. This reminds me of something. It actually reminds me of something I had observed when I was a teenager. And in my high school, there was a lot of people that were using drugs and doing all this stuff. And the people on drugs at the time believed that they were super creative, super productive. It was like the shortcut or the hack to doing their homework or whatever it was they were going to do. And I will say, hey, there are some really interesting angles and creative approaches that may happen when somebody has done things to their mind this way. And I'm not endorsing the use of any drugs. I'm just saying that you watch things that came out from like the Beatles, the Doors, Steppenwolf, Jimi Hendrix. And in this time frame when people were doing this experimenting, it gave them this avenue to express things. That's all I'm saying. But the converse of this is the children that were doing the drugs that were in high school that thought they were doing so awesome. When reality hits, sobriety comes back, and you look at the actual amount of work that was done in the time that it took to do it, it wasn't nearly as effective or efficient as they may believe. And it was chock full of mistakes many times. Can you find an exception to this? Sure, I'm sure you can. But there are so many overwhelming examples of where it's not a shortcut and it's actually not doing you a service in the end. I mean, if you've heard that phrase, you want to measure twice and cut once. You don't want to spend all of your time doing something to have to go back and redo it. And that's the thing, is we did this big training thing yesterday, and I already know we have to redo it. This comes back to the sleep thing. Even though I would like to have slept, when the sun came up, I woke up. I am a morning person, I admit it. I haven't even had any coffee yet, though maybe I should have some coffee. But when the sun comes up and there's daylight, I like to be awake. It's not even something I set an alarm for. It's not that the outside school doing its functions woke me up. I was already awake, and I was actively trying to sleep. Now I'm going to take some naps or something later and try to get a little bit of rest before I have to work again later today. But the point is that when you're not at your best, there are some set limitations. So make a YouTube video. Yeah! I went to the hospital recently because I kept having these respiratory things going on, and I was super concerned that I was gonna have pneumonia or the next greatest, latest, COVID. Turns out I have sinusitis. In the past, when I was in the States, I had acute sinusitis a few times. Yeah, it causes a little bit of vertigo, some real odd discomfort. When you have full-blown sinusitis, you cough sometimes uncontrollably, you sneeze a lot, people believe you're sick, your breathing doesn't feel clear. You feel just like you would if you had like the tightness of your tracheal area, like you have bronchitis or something like that. You feel this way, and it's just sinusitis. Eyes burning, not eye allergy, sinusitis. Weird congestion and stuff going on here, and of course it connects to your inner ear, your sense of balance, your energy levels, everything is impacted. It's amazing. So I do feel for people who have been going through sinusitis on the regular. I had no idea it would, change everything so much. And I've learned about something not too interesting called nasal irrigation. If you don't know, they've got these little bottles you can buy that are water things that go up here, and you put one in the nostril, tilt your head, water comes out the other one to flush out what's going on in there. Definitely not what you sign up for a good time. But I will say this. Part. You're much better off doing this at home, figuring it out, whether you use a neti pot or the thing I talked about, than going to a Chinese hospital and having somebody forcibly do it that doesn't speak English. I can't tell you, there is more unpleasant experiences I've had, but it's ranking pretty high on the list. So they don't speak English and they're telling you to say some word you don't know because they want to hear that you're speaking. Truthfully, they want to know that you're breathing out of your mouth, but they don't explain this part. It's just like they're shooting something into one nostril and trying to get something out of the other nostril. And it's high pressure. And it's just, felt like my head was going to explode. But yeah, so anyway, that's what's happening. I don't mind making the long content, for YouTube or whatever, but finding the time to make good quality videos and do the editing and put the things in that I know make the videos better. You know, life caught up where I was just strapped for time, and of course, health. I have things I want to focus on. I don't want to keep getting bigger like that. I want to be in better shape. So getting better sleep, you know, conscious eating, intentional like weightlifting, not trying to do burnout or become super ripped or anything like this, just for the purpose of good health. I think the goal is that as many days as we're allowed to have in this life, you want to have the best quality of life. If you can have mobility and have some strength and have, you know, quality of life that is enjoyable. You don't want to, hey, you lived an extra 10 years, but you're bedridden. This obviously wouldn't be the goal. And if you're already there and you're in bed and you can't do anything about it, just do the best you can to connect with those that you love. You can still be creative, you can still do things. You know, if you are a person of faith, you can be a prayer warrior for your church. There's a lot of things you can do. So don't give up just because you get dealt a certain hand of cards by life. But be realistic with what you can do and do the most you can with what you have. That's really all we can do, right? So this is the video. I know it's not anything special. Maybe you got something from it. Maybe it helped you with perspective in some way. And maybe this was just for me. You know, of the 2 to 5 viewers, maybe more on the channel, they got something cool. I'll look forward to the next upload. And if you don't hear from me for a while, I'll probably upload some like driving videos. I don't plan to go anywhere, but you understand where I'm coming from. Unless I'm getting feedback from you of what it is you would like, and so I have some direction, then yeah, I don't want to spend hours creating something that nobody sees. I think that's a futile waste of time, right? But I want you to be creative, create your world. Okay, so until the next time, keep creating, and yeah, let's do this thing together.